Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Grüß Gott, Shabbat Shalom, Ciao Bella, Kapasa, wherever you may be in this great world of Adonai. I'm coming to you today with another word from our Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach, and it's going to be coming from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. So I would urge you or encourage you to gather your Bibles, or if you're reading from your smartphones or tablets or computers, just take a moment to do so. And while you're doing that, I just want to talk about a few things, why I will be bringing to you Deuteronomy chapter 28. And that is because in the churches today, the Torah has been forgotten, and what the God of creation, Elohim Adonai ELSHADDAI, said that he would do for the Israelites, well, right now, in this day and time, it is on. Everyone see it in your neighborhoods, in the cities where you may travel through and from, on the televisions, on every media station, and many men out there who are teaching, preaching, women as well, has been afraid to tell the whole truth about why we are in the mess we're in today. So I take it that everyone has gathered their reading materials, where they're going to be reading from. I will be reading from the Complete Jewish Bible. And if you're following along in other Bibles, wording would be somewhat different. Nevertheless, should be close to the same. So I want you guys to join in with me as I read Deuteronomy chapter 28. And once we're finished, there's a certain portion of this book, of this chapter, Deuteronomy chapter 28, where we're going to talk about specifically, okay? And that will be verses 58 till 68, okay? But before we get started with verse 1, so we can get the whole and complete understanding, in the name of Yeshua, what Adonai Elohim El Shaddai is telling us, I want to just stop for a moment and offer a prayer that his word is correctly received, and for those who are seeking him, be granted to find him. Now, before I pray, we're seeing a lot of things that are coming to pass. That is actual prophecy. However, it's missed by many because of the word of the Messiah that's not being taught. In most areas or some congregations out there, not all, it's being taught half of his word and not the full word. So before I go further, because I can talk, I just want to pray for us, not only as a nation, but as a world people. The world, other races can also be saved along with the Israelites who he promised. And I'm going to touch more on that here towards the end of this segment. So I'd like for you all to just join me right now as I offer prayer for all of us to the Messiah, that he may intercede for us to YHWH Elohim. Elohim Adonai ELSHADDAI, Most High God, the only God of creation. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, who is, who was, and is still yet to come, we come to you as sinners, begging and asking for forgiveness for our transgressions against you. Just as it was in the days of Noah, and just as it was in that land of Egypt, your people again have gone astray. However, many of us are aware, and we know that this is the wrong time to go astray. Father, if it may be pleasing to you to accept us all, I ask that you do. Let it be your will that your people are saved and able to escape in your name these calamities that are destined for planet Earth, and the deception and the deceit and the murders and the violence and the misleading of your people by worshiping other gods, other idols, and different names. So I'm going to stop right there for a moment and thank him for hearing our prayer and redeeming us back to himself. So without any further delay, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to be starting at verse 1. Okay, as I mentioned, some of the words in your Bibles, if you're reading from the New International Versions or King James Versions or any other type of Bible or biblical publications, they're quite different from the complete Jewish Bible. Okay, before I start in Deuteronomy, I have one request, and that is those of you who are listening to this broadcast and you hear my voice, I urge you to go out. You have smartphones, you have tablets, you have every piece of information, you have access to the Library of Congress and to many other resources. Please take it upon yourself, find the true and correct name of our Messiah and the true and correct names of our eternal God of creation, YHWH Elohim. He doesn't answer titles, and he doesn't answer disobedience, calling him another name. That is true. And some of you may be saying, well, who is this guy, Alan, that just popped up on the scene telling us all of this and reading to us all of this? Who told him that he could do this? Well, in my next segment, I will go through all of that will ease the mind, and then it would be understood that the authority to do this was given to me by the God of creation, because I believe on his son, Yeshua HaMashiach, and it has everything else to do with my birthright and who I really am. So if you want to get your kids close and let your children listen, and be a part of this, that pleases the Messiah. It really does. All of the beings in heavenly hosts, they rejoice and they just do some wonderful things when we involve our children in his word. So without any further delay, I'm going to begin with verse 1. And these are the words of Adonai. And he says, verse 1, if you listen closely to what Adonai your God says, observing and obeying all his mitzvot, those are laws. It's over 600 of them, or about 600 of them, which I am giving you today. Adonai your God will raise you high above all nations on earth. And all of the following blessings will be yours in abundance if you will do what Adonai your God says. That was verse 1 and 2. Now, verse 3, he says, a blessing on you in the city, a blessing on you in the countryside. Verse 4, he goes on to say, a blessing on the fruit of your body, the fruit of your land, and the fruit of your livestock, the younger of your cattle and flocks. Verse 5, a blessing on your grain basket and kneading bowl. Verse 6, a blessing on you when you go out, and a blessing on you when you come in. Verse 7, Adonai will cause your enemies attacking you to be defeated before you. They will advance on you one way and flee before you 7 ways. Okay, I'm going to stop right there for a second before I go into verse 8, because he said they will flee before you 7 ways. What's the importance of that fleeing 7 ways? Well, if you were not aware, 7 is the number of completion for the Messiah. So that means that they're going to flee. They ain't never, ever coming back. Okay, so we're going to go on into verse 8. Adonai will order a blessing to be with you in your barns and in everything you undertake. He will bless you in the land Adonai your God is giving you. Adonai your God, Adonai, in verse 9, Adonai will establish you as a people separated out for himself, as he has sworn to you, if you will observe the mitzvot of Adonai your God and follow his ways. Verse 10, then all the people on earth will see that Adonai's name, his presence, is with you, so that they will be afraid of you. Now, I'm going to stop right there before I go to verse 11, and notice what he says. Then all the peoples on earth will see that Adonai's name, Adonai's name, his presence is with you, so that they will be afraid of you. Okay, verse 11, Adonai will give you great abundance of good things, of the fruit of your body, the fruit of your livestock, the fruit of your land, and the land Adonai swore to your ancestors to give you. Verse 12, Adonai will open for you his good treasure, the sky, to give your land its rain at the right seasons, and to bless everything you undertake. You will lend to many nations and not borrow. 13, verse 13, Adonai will make you the head and not the tail, and you will be only above, never below, if you will listen to, observe, and obey the mitzvot of Adonai your God. In verse 14, and not turn away from any of the words I am ordering you today, neither to the right nor to the left, to follow after other gods and serve them. Okay, now I'm going to stop right there before I go to verse 15. What's wrong with Babylon? What's wrong with America? The following of other gods and deities. Just as we talked about in the last segment, here the God of creation is telling us. In verse 15, but if you refuse to pay attention to what Adonai your God says, and do not observe all and obey all his mitzvot and regulations which I am giving you today, then all the following curses will be yours in abundance. Okay, here is where it gets sticky for many out there that's preaching half his word. Many mean well, but they're only preaching and teaching half his word. Okay, verse 16. Tell me if this sounds like what you're experiencing and what you're seeing with your own eyes. Verse 16. A curse on you in the city, and a curse on you in the countryside. Verse 17. A curse on your grain basket and kneading bowl. Verse 18. A curse on the fruit of your body, the fruit of your land, and the young of your cattle and flocks. Verse 19. A curse on you when you come in, a curse on you when you go out. Verse 20. Adonai will send on you curses, disasters, and frustration in everything you set out to do, until you are destroyed and quickly perish because of your evil actions in abandoning me. Whoa. Did you hear that? Verse 20. Going to read it again. Adonai will send on you curses, disasters, and frustration in everything you set out to do, until you are destroyed and quickly perish because of your evil actions in abandoning me. So says the God of creation, YHWH Elohim. Well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that that's exactly what's happened. You have your governments, you have your city officials, we even have families. We even have people that call themselves teaching and preaching the word of YHWH Elohim, calling him out of his name, disrespectful, being disrespectful, and talking about other deities with idols hanging all over the place. So what does anyone think that was going to happen? So he told us what would happen, and we see it right now in this very day and time, in this year, Hebrew 5780, and in this Gregorian year of 2020. We see it. By the way, did anyone notice the eclipse on the American holiday that night, the 4th of July? It was amazing. Anyway, let's go on. Verse 21. Adonai will bring on you a plague that will stay with you until he has exterminated you from the land you are entering in order to take possession of it. Adonai will strike you down with wasting diseases, fever, inflammation, fiery heart, drought, blasting winds, and mildew, and they will pursue you until you perish. Sounds just like today, doesn't it? The sky over your head will be brass, and the earth under you, iron. It's very hot and it's very dry, especially here in Oklahoma. This Saturday coming up, we're supposed to reach 105 degrees. It's been in the high 90s for days now. Verse 24, Adonai would turn the rain your land needs into powder and dust that will fall on you from the sky until you are destroyed. Verse 25, Adonai your God will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. You will advance on them one way and flee before them 7 ways. You see how he reversed everything because of ignorance and disobedience and the worshiping of other deities and gods, and not taking the time to learn about his mitzvot, his laws, and his regulations. He quickly turned it. You will become an object of horror to every kingdom on earth. Boy, that's what happened to us. Your carcasses will become food for all the birds in the air and the wild animals, and there will be no one to scare them away. It's happened, and it's happening again. Verse 27, Adonai will strike you down with the boils that broke out on the Egyptians, tumors, skin lesions, and itching, all incurable. So what Adonai does, there is no cure for it. Verse 28, Adonai will strike you with insanity, blindness, and utter confusion. Oh boy, don't that sound just like today? The confusion, everyone is blind. It seems like all of the people without Yahweh, who do not trust and believe in Yeshua HaMashiach, is really insane. It's really hard to talk or to discuss anything because they're confused, reprobate minds. In verse 29, he says, you will grope about at noon like a blind person, groping in the dark, unable to find your way. You will be continually oppressed and robbed, and there will be no one to save you. You see what's happening? Even with everything that's going on today and everything been shut down, man, they're still robbing and killing each other because no one has taught the people about the true God of creation, Elohim Adonai ELSHADDAI. Nor has they learned anything about him, his son, Yeshua HaMashiach. They teach you and they have learned about the other deity that's not of him. And I guess the people are going to see that rather quickly now. In verse 30, Yahweh Adonai, he says, you will get engaged to a woman, but another man will marry her. You will build a house, but not live in it. You will plant a vineyard, but not use its fruit. Boy, isn't that true? Boy, we go out and we marry. Next thing you know, there's a divorce and somebody else is marrying that woman. You can build that house and put that woman in it or put that man in it. And guess what? One of the parties is going to get that house, and whatever they built doesn't even exist for them anymore. It's for someone else. Isn't that just like it is now? Verse 31, your ox will be slaughtered before your eyes, but you won't eat any of its meat. Your donkey will be taken away from you by force as you watch, and you won't get it back. Your sheep will be given to your enemies, and there will be no one to help you. Verse 32, your sons and daughters will be handed over to another people. You will watch them longingly all day, but not see them, and there will be nothing you can do about it. My gosh, hasn't it been like that? Isn't that what the people called themselves fighting for? They took retribution and they took matters into their own hands without seeking the counsel of Elohim Adonai. And just as he said there, that's exactly what's happened. In verse 33, he goes on to say, a nation unknown to you will eat the fruit of your land and labor. Yes, you will be continually oppressed and crushed. Pressed and crushed. Verse 34, he says, till you go crazy from what your eyes have to see. And that's what's happened. The people have went crazy. It has nothing to do with color of the skin. It's simply not knowing or not trying to know the God of creation and to learn of his laws, his mitzvot, and follow them and teach them to our children. In verse 35, Adonai will strike you down in the knees and legs with painful and incurable boils. They will spread from the soles of your foot to the crown of your head. In verse 36, Adonai will bring you and your king whom you have put over yourselves to a nation you have not known, neither you nor your ancestors, and there you will serve other gods made of wood and stone. Okay, right there, man, I really got to talk about that. Again, Adonai will bring you and your king whom you have put over yourselves to a nation you have not known, neither you nor your ancestors, and there you will serve other gods made of wood and stone. So you see it right there. He told us he would bring us out with our king. Okay? Whom you have put over yourselves to a nation you have not known. So I'm going to let everyone just kind of breathe that and absorb that in. Then he goes on to say, neither you nor your ancestors, so that includes us, because his word is from generation to generation. It doesn't end just as the people will say back there in biblical times. No, it goes all the way until the time, the ending of grace. Okay? Neither you nor your ancestors, and there you will serve other gods made of wood and stone. Isn't that what's happening in Babylon, America, and other Western cultures? Yes, even in other strange lands. In verse 37, he says, you will be so devastated as to become a proverb and a laughingstock among the peoples to which Adonai will drive you. So that's exactly what's happened to the Israelites and even the other citizens of other races and nations who accepted Yeshua as Savior, that rebelled against him. Everybody's been cast out into all these other nations, far, far, far away from their Elohim. And he just told us, you will be so devastated as to become a proverb and a laughingstock among all the peoples to which Adonai will drive you. So we've been driven into all the other nations. They've oppressed, they laugh, they call you out of your name, they hide your identity. The people don't even know who they are. And they're out here fighting and carrying on without Adonai. Woe unto you and your children also. In verse 38, Adonai says, you will carry much seed out of the field, but gather little in, because locusts will devour it. You will plant vineyards, verse 39 now, you will plant vineyards and dress them, but neither drink the wine nor gather the grapes, because worms will eat them. Verse 40, you will have olive trees throughout your territory, but not anoint yourself with the oil, because your olives will fall off unripe. Wow. In verse 41, he says, your father's sons and daughters, but they won't belong to you because they will go into captivity. Okay. There you have it. These are the words of the Most High God. You will father sons and daughters, but they won't belong to you because they will go into captivity. So We've been in captivity. Yeah, we've been in captivity. And we fathered sons and daughters. And because of society and the rule of man, they don't belong to us. They really don't. Not unless they're protected by the blood of Yeshua HaMashiach. Blood, the true Savior. In verse 42, the Messiah says, the God of creation says, the bugs will inherit all your trees and the produce of your land. The foreigner living with you will rise higher and higher while you sink lower and lower. Isn't that what happened? You don't even know who you are. They stole the identity. They changed your name. Man, they gave you a new name and a new God to worship and a new way to live. We have been placed so far away from our ELOHIM Adonai to where it's unbearable. Verse 44, he will lend to you, but you will not lend to him. He will be the head and you the tail. 45, verse 45, all these curses will come on you, pursuing you and overtaking you until you are destroyed because you didn't pay attention to what Adonai your God said, observing his mitzvot, laws, and regulations that he gave you. In verse 46, these curses will be on you and your descendants as a sign and a wonder forever. Verse 47, because you didn't serve Adonai your God with joy and gladness in your heart when you had such an abundance of everything. Verse 48, Adonai will send your enemy against you, and you will serve him when you are hungry, thirsty, poorly clothed, and lacking everything. He will put a yoke of iron on your neck until he destroys you. Yes, Adonai will bring against you a nation from far away that will swoop down on you from the end of the earth like a vulture, from the end, a nation whose language you don't understand. Boy, doesn't that sound like what's already happened? Well, it is. In verse 50, a nation grim in appearance, whose people neither respect the old nor pity the young. In verse 51, they will devour the offspring of your livestock and the produce of your soil until you have been destroyed. They will leave you without grain, wine, olive oil, or young cattle and sheep until they have caused you to perish. Boy, isn't that the truth? In verse 52, they will besiege all your towns until your high, fortified walls in which you trusted collapse everywhere in your land, which Adonai your God gave you. Verse 53, then because of the severity of the siege and distress that your enemies are inflicting on you, you will eat the offspring of your own body, the flesh of your own sons and daughters whom Adonai your God has given you. Wow. Verse 54, even the most gentle and sensitive man among you will be without pity for his brother, his beloved wife, or his surviving children. Verse 55, to the degree that he will refuse to share with any of them the flesh of his children whom he is eating, because if he did, he would have nothing left for himself. In the severity of the siege and distress your enemies are inflicting on you in all your towns. Verse 56, the most delicate and sensitive woman among you, so sensitive and delicate that she wouldn't think of touching the sole of her foot to the ground, will so begrudge her own beloved husband, son, and daughter. In verse 57, that she will secretly eat the afterbirth that comes out of her and even her own children as she bears them, So desperately hungry will she be in the severity of the siege and distress your enemies are inflicting on you in your towns. That happened. In verse 58, this is very important. From here on, as the whole word is very important, but I just find from verse 58 to the end of Deuteronomy chapter 28 to be very significant. Listen close, people. Verse 58. If you will not observe and obey all the words of this Torah that are written in this book, so that you will fear this glorious and awesome name, Adonai your God. Verse 59. Then Adonai will strike down you and your descendants with extraordinary plagues and severe sickness that go on and on. Wow. In verse 60. He will bring back upon you all the diseases the Egyptians had, which you were in dread of, and they will cling to you. That's what's happening right now in this day and time, July 2020, and has been going on for some time, as you all are aware and you know. Verse 61, not only that, but Adonai will bring upon you all the sicknesses and plagues that are not written in this book of the Torah until you are destroyed. So here he's talking about plagues that we don't even know about, and sicknesses that he hasn't even written about. But he's going to bring them because of how wicked and how evil and how rebellious that all the people of the earth has been. In verse 62, in verse Adonai, you will be left few in number, whereas you were once as numerous as the stars in the sky, because you did not pay attention to the voice of Adonai your God. Don't you see how we have been reduced because of our rebellion and disobedience and not paying attention to the voice of Adonai? There's shootings every day. There's killings. There's everything. Abductions. It's really out of hand. So something very soon in this earth is about to happen, so dramatic to where it's going to have people quaking in their boots. In verse 63, he says, thus it will come about that just as once Adonai took joy in seeking to do you good and increase your numbers, so now Adonai will take joy in causing you to perish and be destroyed. And you will be plucked off the land you are entering in order to take possession of it. In verse 64, Adonai will scatter you among all peoples from one end of the earth to the other. And there you will serve other gods made of wood and stone, which neither you nor your ancestors have known. Okay, verse 64. Let's read it again. Adonai will scatter you among all peoples from one end of the earth to the other, and there you will serve other gods made of wood and stone, which neither you nor your ancestors have known. That's where we are, people. We're in strange lands. We've been made to worship other gods, worship other idols. Don't you see it? Because all of the people of the earth, many, has went without trying to find the true God of creation, but they accepted the false God and the false Messiah, which is a different deity that are not him. In verse 65, he says, among these nations you will not find repose, and there will be no rest for the sole of your foot. Rather, Adonai will give you there anguish of heart, dimness of eyes, and apathy of spirit. This is what's happened. This is exactly what has happened and what is transpiring right before all of our very eyes. And for those of us who have found the true God of creation, and we believe on his beloved Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, we see this. And those that are now coming to him are seeing this. And that is a great awakening. In verse 66, he says, your life will hang in doubt before you. You will be afraid night and day and have no assurance that you will stay alive. Isn't that what the people are doing today? They're running, they're afraid, they're listening to every piece of news media that they can to try to find out, well, what's happening, what's going on. Well, the only way that any person is going to find out what's happening and what's going on, number one, is to accept the true Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach. Two is to obey the mitzvot and the regulations and the commandments of the God of creation, Adonai Elohim. That is the only way, is that you're going to understand what you must do and how to be saved. And again, verse 66, he says, your life will hang in doubt before you. You will be afraid night and day and have no assurance that you will stay alive. Why? Because they don't know Adonai. There is no way they can know or understand anything. Okay? Now, verse 67. In the morning you will say, oh, how I wish it were evening. And in the evening you will say, oh, how I wish it were morning, because of the fear overwhelming your heart and the sights your eyes will see. And in the final verse in Deuteronomy Chapter 28, which is verse 68, he says, finally, Adonai will bring you back in ships to Egypt, the place of which I said to you, you will never, ever see it again. And there you will try to sell yourselves as slaves to your enemies, but no one will buy you. Okay? Now, when he said that he would bring us back into ships in Egypt, many scholars and so-called theologians out there, oh, well, he's taking us back to Egypt. We haven't been there yet. Oh, yes, you have been. He's talking about modern day Egypt. Egypt, ancient Egypt, there is no sea. Let the wise understand, and let for those who seek his wisdom be granted wisdom to understand what the God of creation is saying. I'm going to read it again. The final verse, he says, finally, Adonai will bring you back in ships to Egypt, the place of which I said to you, you will never, ever see it again. And there you will try to sell yourselves as slaves to your enemies, but no one will buy you. Amazing. So you guys can go back and read this complete chapter when you have time. And so I'm going to stop right there as we just ended the chapter at verse 68 and just kind of reflect just what the God of creation, Adonai, Elohim, ELSHADDAI, told us. And that was the curse that was placed on the Hebrew Israelites and any person or persons from other countries or nations who accepted him and believed in him, that rebelled also. That's what happened. We got shipped all the way over into Babylon, and all these other strange nations worshiping strange gods upholding strange idols, engaging in witchcraft, sexual immorality, murder, and every vicious sin under heaven. And most of all, for those out there who are part of ministries and congregations out there, I urge you to go out and check yourselves and your doctrines of what in the heck are you doing, teaching and preaching about a Roman Babylonian deity that has nothing to do with the true God of creation, Adonai Elohim ELSHADDAI, and our Savior Yeshua HaMashiach, whose names cannot be changed or modified or broken down to fit a group of people or a nation or a type of worship. I urge everyone to go out and read about Gideon and what he did when he went in and tore down that statue of Baal. And even Gideon, he kept on, well, if you are God, then make the dew, make it wet all over here, but make it dry here. Then he come right back. Oh, okay. Well, make it wet right here and make it dry all around there. Man, I tell you, that was some of the funniest things, boy, I tell you. And, I like to add a little humor to it because right now, and I see it, and I know that you all see it, that there's many people that's even in your neighborhoods, in your families, in your congregations, and all around you. They are afraid. And there are many of the people that's around us that are still engaging in total wickedness. And just as it was in the days of Noah and in the days of Egypt, when he brought us out with a mighty hand, so is it now. And what we just read was what was going to happen to us and what has happened to us because of the rebellion of our ancestors and even us as a people up until this day in time, this very hour. Now, there's a lot of things going on, and I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about myself as to why I'm able to bring you this without any fear, any remorse. We don't need $1. We don't need any of that. We're just thankful and appreciative to be able to still be able to broadcast right now, to bring you his word. And it takes a lot because being in college, there is really no time, and being a single parent, there is really no time. But he allows me to have the time to do this, to honor him. Yes, to honor him and to help as many people in this entire world that I possibly can. And so before I bring us up into ending prayer, I just want to just kind of talk about what will be within the next segment that we broadcast. Want to be about me and why I am able to speak these words of Adonai, why he's allowed me, And the next is what we should and what we need to be doing as a nation. And as a people, a whole people. And for the people that's hearing this to understand that the treaty and agreement that's going to be made, that's about to be made between those people over there in that land that they call Israel and the Palestinians, the Arabs, understand that is not us. Israel is not a land. Israel is a person, Abraham, whose name was changed to Israel, and all of his descendants, that is Israel. Don't be fooled by the crap that's been going around for all of these decades. Okay? So when they're praying for the people of Israel, who in the heck are they really praying for? Why didn't you pray for the true Israelites who scattered amongst you? You're looking at them, you're walking amongst them every day. And you're killing them and you're beating the heck out of them. And you're talking down on them. And they're the very people that you're going to be looking for once he pass over us. And the dead shall rise first. And those of us that are alive will catch up with them. That is a great mystery. And we'll talk about that during the next segment. But right now, I've enjoyed being able to come into your lives and into your homes and just to be a part of his word and being able to constantly seek his guidance to be able to deliver it to where it is accepted and understood. So, Father Yahweh, Elohim Adonai ELSHADDAI, Most High God of creation, the only God, in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we thank you for your word, for allowing us to read Deuteronomy Chapter 28 and to gather its understanding and to see who we are and where we are as a people, and to be blessed by your word and to change our ways and to learn of your mitzvot, your laws, and your regulations, and to apply them in our lives, that we may be saved and our children may be saved, and that we are written in the book of life eternally. I just really want to thank you guys just for being a part and for listening. It's not very many more days that anyone who's broadcasting the true words of the Messiah will be around to do that. That's a mystery. Going to leave it right there for right now. But until next time, you guys have a great afternoon on this Thursday afternoon, July 9th. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, until we meet again, Shalom